The emperor selected a bride for his most beloved son, Prince Xiaosu of Hongyang. Because I, as the eldest daughter, had a tear-shaped birthmark at the corner of my eye, I was betrothed to Xiaosu. My younger sister was instead given to the unloved Prince Xiaoyan of Guangyang as a concubine. Xiaosu and I lived in harmony. But my sister was tormented day and night by the princess of Guangyang. When Xiaosu ascended the throne due to my reputation, the first thing he did was drag me to the dungeon and blind me. If it weren't for this tear-shaped birthmark, how could Io have been given to Xiaoyan to suffer day and night? Xin Jiao Jiao. The pain Io endured, I will make you suffer 1,000 times over. I have endured such suffering for countless years. Only at the moment of death did I realize that neither my younger sister nor Xiaoyan's official wife were from this world. All that suffering was merely a play between the two of them. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day when Xiaosu was about to receive the imperial decree of marriage. I interrupted Xiaosu as he was about to accept the decree and knelt before the throne. Your Majesty, the tears of this exiled immortal were once foretold by a divine being. If I were to marry an ordinary commoner, it would be a sign of good fortune. However, if I were to marry someone of noble birth, it would be an omen of misfortune. But my younger sister is different. The fox pattern on her neck is a sign of good fortune in Qingqiu, making her the perfect choice. Everyone in the hall looked at me in astonishment, including Xiaosu, who was kneeling beside me. Do you know what you are saying? I have heard that you have loved Prince Xiaosu since childhood. Are you willing to give up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Everyone in Beiliang knows that I have loved Xiaosu. In my previous life, I was overjoyed to marry him. Even after 3 years of marriage, I believed he truly loved me, as we never once argued. But in the end, I discovered he was the most ruthless and heartless person. Your Majesty, that was merely the ignorance of a young woman who mistook admiration for love. I have no romantic feelings for the Prince of Hongyang. Moreover, he is so outstanding that he deserves to marry the finest woman in the world. Xiaosu suddenly turned around, his gaze toward me complex, as if considering something, but he remained kneeling on the ground, his expression resolute. Father, your son has long been infatuated with Xin Muyao, the concubine's daughter of the Xin family. I implore you to grant her to me as my legitimate wife. Xin Muyao, standing beside him, had an ambiguous expression in her eyes, her hands tightly clutching a handkerchief, remaining silent. Ridiculous. Su, do you know what you are saying? You are the future heir to the throne. Marrying a concubine's daughter as your official wife would be a laughingstock. I will not allow it. Everyone knows that Prince Hunyang is the emperor's legitimate son and the future heir to the throne. If a concubine's daughter is made the official wife, she will become the future empress. The empress's status is exalted. How can we allow a concubine's daughter to take her place? Mother, your humble son truly loves Io. Io may have a lower status. But so what? Who doesn't know that Io is the most talented woman in the Northern Qi Kingdom? Skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, and song? She would make an excellent empress for your humble son. If mother insists on this, then your humble son would rather give up the position of crown prince. How dare you? The empress heard this and angrily slammed the table, glaring at Xiaosu below. Your Majesty, please calm down. This servant knows her lowly status and is unworthy of marrying Prince Hunyang as his official consort. This marriage was meant for my elder sister. And this servant will not. Io. Do not speak nonsense. What is unworthy? You are the princess I have always loved. Besides you, this prince will marry no one else. Xiaosu looked at Xin Muyao tenderly, but he did not notice that her hands were tightly clutching a handkerchief. The civil and military officials exchanged glances. In this world, perhaps only the Prince of Hunyang dared to speak to the Empress in such a manner. After all, The empress was the emperor's lawful wife. The emperor had never taken any concubines for her sake. As for the prince of Guangyang, he was born to the empress's personal maid. Once, the emperor, in a drunken state, mistakenly took the maid's life, and she gave birth to the prince of Guangyang. The emperor and the empress had always disliked Guangyang Wang, who had spent years in the cold palace, fostering a cruel and bloodthirsty nature. Seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, I hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, although my younger sister is of low status, she is still the second daughter of the Shin family. Her mother was the legitimate daughter of the former Minister of Revenue, and her grandfather was a deputy general who had won countless battles. Her status is no less than that of a legitimate daughter. If your Majesty objects, I am willing to give up my legitimate daughter's status and pass it on to my younger sister." Upon hearing this, the entire court was filled with sighs of admiration. Even Xiao Su, standing beside me, looked surprised, let alone Shin Muyao, who had always been at odds with me. Seeing this, the empress could say nothing more. The emperor sighed and issued an imperial edict, bestowing Shin Muyao upon Xiao Su as his primary consort. "Shin Jiao Jiao, though you have not married Xiao Su, your heart is pure and you are of marriageable age. I shall bestow you upon Guangyang Wang as his concubine, thus fulfilling your marital destiny." I knelt to receive the edict without refusal, for I knew the emperor believed my words. He had never favored Guangyang Wang and had always sought his death. But now that the Guangyang prince has grown into an adult with a cruel and ruthless nature, killing him is no longer a simple matter. Therefore, the emperor is using my unfortunate status to eliminate him. Indeed, emperors have always been the most ruthless, even their own flesh and blood can be discarded. But none of that matters now. As long as I do not marry Xiao Su in this lifetime, that is enough. As for the position of crown prince, he might not know it. But although the emperor loves him, there are limits to that love. If it weren't for my assistance back then, with his intelligence, he would have been discarded by the emperor long ago and would never have ascended to the position of crown prince. Since I have been given a second life, let the position of crown prince go to someone else. After leaving the palace, Xiao Su sent men to block my path. "Miss Shin, the prince requests your presence." Glancing at the palanquin in the distance, I walked over. As soon as I got into the carriage, Xiao Su stared at me with an ambiguous expression. "You're quite self-aware in this life, knowing to give up your position for Io." His eyes were cold as he kept rubbing the ring on his finger while staring at me. In the previous life, because Shin Muyao was humiliated and abused by Xiao Yan's official wife, she tried many times to escape but failed. Xiao Su found out and blamed me for everything. He accused me of stealing Shin Muyao's identity, believing that the suffering she endured was something I deserved. But he didn't know that Shin Muyao wasn't even from this world, and that the humiliating events were all part of a plot she had hatched with the official wife of Guangyang Wang. Neither of them belonged to this world. Their common goal was twofold: 1. To have Xiao Su kill me, the so-called female lead, with his own hands, and 2. To make Xiao Yan fall in love with himself. Upon hearing Xiao Su's words, I was not particularly surprised. Clearly, he had also been reborn. "Although you were full of schemes in your previous life and married me, we were still husband and wife. You have already faced the consequences of your actions. As long as you behave yourself in this life and don't cause any trouble, I will find an opportunity to have my father the emperor annul your marriage to Xiao Yan and bestow you upon me as a concubine. After all, you love me deeply and were willing to marry someone as ruthless as Xiao Yan for me. Granting you the title of concubine is not unreasonable." I snorted lightly, turned around, and jumped off the carriage. Xiao Su followed behind with a mocking smile. "What? Granting you the title of concubine is already a great favor. What more do you want? Could it be that you still harbor ill intentions and dare to harm Io?" I turned to look at Xiao Su with a smile. "Xiao Su, Since we have both been reborn, the karmic ties from our previous life should be completely severed. Rest assured, I have no feelings for you. I wholeheartedly approve of you marrying Shin Muyao. We need not meet again in the future. This is the best possible outcome for both of us. Upon hearing my words, Xiao Su's expression grew even darker. He gripped my hand tightly. Shin Jiao Jiao, do you really think you can make me believe you have no other intentions toward me with such words? This game of being close one moment and distant the next is one this king has seen too many times. Rest assured, I keep my word. What I have promised you, I will fulfill. Once I marry Io, I will certainly bring you into my household. You may rest assured and prepare for your wedding. I shook off his hand, snorted derisively, and turned to leave. There was nothing more to say to Xiao Su. After all, this life had only just begun for us. What he called true love was nothing but manipulation. I was curious to see how he would react when he discovered Shin Muyao's true nature. After all, women of that era thought differently from women of today. Having multiple wives and concubines was nothing unusual for Xiao Su. But if Shin Muyao were to have men on both sides, I would like to see if he could remain so calm and magnanimous. Along the way, the words Shin Muyao had spoken to Xiao Yan's official wife, Dang Rou, before her death kept replaying in my mind. So much so that I bumped into someone on the street before snapping back to reality. You woman. You bumped into our princess and didn't kneel down. Who gave you the nerve? The maid spoke sharply. I looked up and saw a graceful and elegant woman glaring at me with disdain. I lowered my head. It was an old acquaintance. It's you, Shin Jiao Jiao, the legitimate daughter of the imperial astrologer. Dang Yan looked at me meaningfully. I bowed my head and said softly, this servant, Shin Jiao Jiao, did not mean to offend the princess. I was simply so captivated by her beauty that I couldn't help but stare. Please forgive me. Dang Ren curled her lips, unconcerned, and stroked the nail polish on her hand, saying indifferently, I thought the woman who married into the Guangyang prince's mansion would be something special. But today, she's nothing special, just a smooth-talking, superficial woman. How boring. Well, since you'll be entering the mansion in a few days, we can settle this account when you arrive. She leaned closer to me and whispered the last sentence in my ear. I remained silent, lowering my head. After she left, my maid Xihua spoke cautiously. Miss, I hear that the Guangyang prince's mansion is a living hell. Not only is the prince ruthless, but the princess is also cruel. I worry for you. Perhaps we should ask the master to plead with the emperor. I waved my hand to cut her off. Everyone knows that Xiao Yan of the Guangyang prince's mansion is ruthless and cruel. But no one knows why he is like that. To understand a person, one must understand their heart. Some people have a kind face but a cruel heart, while others have a cold face but a kind heart. Who could have imagined that the gentle and considerate Xiao Su, who cares for the people, is such a ruthless person behind closed doors? Dang Yan went to great lengths to win Xiao Yan's affection. But whether Xiao Yan will love her this time depends on whether she still has the ability to do so. Upon returning to the mansion, my father hurried out to greet me. Upon seeing me, he couldn't help but sigh. Jiao Jiao, how could you agree to marry the Prince of Guangyang? Do you know what he is like? Ah, never mind. I will go beg the emperor to cancel this marriage. I interrupted my father's words. Speaking softly, father. Marrying the Prince of Guangyang is Jiao Jiao's own choice. You don't need to worry about me. Nonsense. Do you know what kind of man the Prince of Guangyang is? Sister, you're back. I thank you for speaking up for me today. However, if you don't want to marry the Prince of Guangyang, I don't mind marrying him instead. After all, I'm just a concubine's daughter. How could I possibly bear the title of the Prince of Hongyang's official wife? Shin Muyao walked over slowly, her eyes brimming with tears, her voice soft and gentle. She smiled as she casually handed the jade pendant in her hand to her. This was something only the official wife of Xiao Su could keep. Back then, the Empress regarded me as her legitimate wife and bestowed this jade pendant upon me. Now it seems it must be passed on to another. What are you saying, sister? Though our father is not a high-ranking official, he has been favored by the Emperor. You are the second young miss of our household, how could you be unworthy? Rest assured, this marriage will proceed smoothly. You need only wait for the wedding with peace of mind. I patted her hand and handed her the jade pendant. Shin Muyao bit her lip, looking at the jade pendant as if she wanted to say something. But I interrupted her. The Emperor has already issued an edict. If we disobey, not only you and I, but the entire Shin family will suffer. You are such a kind-hearted person, you wouldn't let the 100 or so members of the Shin family die because of you. Would you? After all, the main wife of the Hongyang prince is different from the secondary wife of the Guangyang prince. People naturally aspire to higher positions. So as the older sister, I should naturally give way to my younger sister. Shin Muyao forced a smile and turned to leave. Watching her back, I fell into deep thought. In my previous life, I married Xiao Yan to complete a mission. After he colluded with Dang Ran to kill me, he remarried me to Xiao Su. In this life, I've gone to great lengths to avoid repeating the past. But how can I possibly fulfill her wishes? To rely on my own abilities to help Xiao Su ascend the throne? That's a pipe dream. After that day, both the Hongyang Wangfu and the Guangyang Wangfu sent dowry gifts. Shin Muyao saw them but showed no signs of joy. I heard that she had visited the Hongyang prince several times in recent days but was met with a cold reception each time. Just as I was about to leave, Xiao Su arrived. He rushed to me, suddenly flew into a rage, grabbed my neck, and coldly said, Shin Jiao Jiao, I knew you wouldn't give up and were still bullying Io. Right? What did you say to her that made her refuse to marry me? Did you force her to do something? I knew you were a venomous woman with no shame. I was so angry I laughed, forcefully prying his hands off my neck and gasping for air. Xiao Su, I made it clear that day. What happened between us was from a previous life. Our connection has ended, and I have no feelings for you. Whether Shin Muyao wants to marry you is her choice, and it has nothing to do with me. Moreover, I am about to marry someone else. For you. I only want to distance myself from you as much as possible. I have no feelings for you at all. If you think Shin Muyao doesn't want to marry you, then look within yourself for the reason. See if your Io truly cares about you. Or perhaps she already has someone else in mind. Xiao Su furrowed his brows tightly, gritting his teeth and glaring at me. Shin Jiao Jiao, don't speak nonsense. Do you think Io is as shameless as you? In our previous life, we were harmonious and loving, and she would never love anyone else besides me. No matter what you say, I will say it again. Don't try to disrupt this. Otherwise, the tragedy of our previous life will repeat itself, and you won't escape it either. If you behave yourself, I will give you a proper title after I ascend the throne. After saying that, he stormed off in anger. I chuckled softly and took a step forward, but was startled by a laugh. On the eaves, Xiao Yan looked at me with a smirk. It seems I heard some interesting news. Are you not going to share it with me? Concubine? I was surprised that Xiao Yan would eavesdrop, but upon further thought, I decided it wasn't a big deal. Inside the drunken fragrance pavilion, Xiao Yan sipped his tea casually, his eyes narrowing slightly. Rumor has it that the eldest daughter of the Shin family is infatuated with the Prince of Hongyang. But today I noticed something quite interesting. Concubine, why don't you tell me what happened in the previous life? Xiao Yan was a man of deep thoughts. Deceiving him was simply impossible. After a moment of silence, I lowered my head and sniffed. since your highness has already heard it. I have nothing to hide. However, I fear your highness might find this absurd. Oh. Then tell me about it. A quarter of an hour later. Xiao Yan stared at me without blinking. You say I am the true heir to the throne? Xin Jiao Jiao. Do you think you have the qualifications to make me believe you? You must know that arbitrarily speculating on the emperor's intentions is. Xiao Yan smiled faintly and made a gesture with his hand at his neck. If your highness didn't believe me, how could you have sat here listening to me for so long? Moreover, your highness just heard what I said to Prince Hongyang, and you didn't deny that the events of the previous life happened. Did you? In my previous life, I had a tragic fate and chose the wrong person. How could I repeat the same mistake in this life? I was never the one Prince Hongyang truly loved. My younger sister is different, she will be fine. But I am different. I just want to live. Moreover, your highness experienced no less than I did in your youth. We are both in the same boat. Why wait for death when we can take control of the situation first? The eldest daughter of the Shin family truly surprises me. However, you say that my princess. How can you prove it? I smiled as I poured tea into his cup, then stepped forward and whispered into his ear. Xiao Yan held the teacup in his hand and smiled. His eyes fixed on me, then I shall wait for Jiao Jiao to enter the mansion. After he left, I looked at the teacup in front of me and smiled lightly. Dang Ran. Xiao Su. Shin Muyao, the show has only just begun. 3 days later, I boarded the wedding palanquin with Shin Muyao. Her face looked a bit pale, but I just smiled. The palanquin bearers lifted the palanquin, and Shin Muyao and I went in opposite directions. Upon arriving at the Guangyang prince's mansion, Xiao Yan, dressed in red, led me inside. After the 3 bows to heaven and earth, a servant ran out from the door. His voice was filled with urgency. Something terrible has happened. Your Highness. Inside the palace, the emperor was furious, glaring down at Xiao Su. Is this the result of your efforts? Countless refugees have died or been injured. Is this what you call completed? Xiao Su knelt on the ground, his eyes filled with astonishment. In his previous life, a flood had occurred at this very moment. Under my guidance, Xiao Su had evacuated the refugees in advance and made preparations to prevent casualties. He thought this life would be the same as the last, so he requested funds from the emperor to prepare in advance, claiming that all of this was revealed to him by Shin Muyao as the divine maiden. He wanted to take credit for this achievement, but he never imagined that his clever plan would backfire and endanger Shin Muyao. But they did not know that fate was changing, and so were the circumstances. In the previous life, it was a flood, but this time it was different. This time, there was indeed a disaster, but it was not a flood, it was a plague. Father, your son has made a mistake. I will handle this matter properly. Please give your son another chance. Useless. Your mind is filled with sentimental notions. How can you achieve anything by listening to the words of a woman? The emperor flew into a rage, flinging the memorial on the desk onto Xiao Su's face. He collapsed onto the ground in disarray, taking a long time to turn and look at me. His red robe had not yet been removed. I casually shifted behind Xiao Yan, who smiled upon seeing this and gently stroked my head. This gesture was noticed by Xiao Su, whose face turned ashen in an instant. Your Majesty, although the plague is spreading in Linqing, your humble servant has already sent the medicine for treatment ahead of time. It should have arrived by now. The emperor nodded in response, then gave Xiao Yan a meaningful look before saying after a long pause. Xiao Yan, you did well. Xiao Su tried to say something but was stopped by the emperor. Seeing this, Xiao Su dared not say another word. After leaving the palace, I followed behind Xiao Yan. Xiao Su quickly caught up, his voice filled with anger. Xiao Yan, Did you cause the plague and lynching? How could you harm so many innocent people for your own selfish gain? You disgust me to the core. He then turned to me, Shin Jiao Jiao. How could you marry such a man? After this matter is resolved, I will ask my father the emperor to grant you a divorce. You've always wanted to marry me, haven't you? I hurriedly interrupted him and stood beside Xiaoyan. Your Highness, how many times must I tell you? I have no romantic feelings for you and do not wish to marry you as a concubine. Please abandon this notion. Will you? Moreover, my current husband is Yan. No matter what, he is your younger brother. I am your sister-in-law. Are you trying to disregard moral norms and compete with your own younger brother for a woman? As for what kind of person my husband is, I know him well enough. I don't need the prince to judge him. If you have such thoughts, why not focus on how to appease the emperor instead? After all, the plague and lynching has claimed countless lives. Oh, and don't forget to think about how to prevent the emperor from punishing the princess of Hongyang. After saying this, I took Xiaoyan's hand and turned to get into the carriage. Behind me, Xiao Se roared. Shin Jiao Jiao, you will regret this. I shrugged. Regret? Of course I will. But it won't be me. Xiaoyan, standing beside me, saw this and smiled, pulling me toward him. He used his strong hands to grip my jaw. I was startled. What is the prince doing? Could he be planning to kill the horse after it has done its work? Xiaoyan stared at me with a mocking smile. How could I bear to harm such a charming person? The concubine has truly surprised me. Why are you holding me so tightly? Your Highness? Xiaoyan raised one hand and gently traced the corner of my eye with his thumb. The tears of a fallen immortal are truly beautiful. I merely wish to see them up close. Looking into his eyes, I smiled lightly. Indeed, a pervert suits my tastes better. Upon returning to the mansion, Dang Ran rushed over from a distance. She glanced at me disdainfully before walking over to Xiaoyan's side. Your Highness. How are you? Did the emperor say anything to you? Xiaoyan turned his head to glance at Dang Ran. His voice cold and devoid of emotion. No. He then led me inside. Dang Ran saw this and hurriedly followed. Your Highness. What are you doing? I crossed my arms and looked at Dang Ran, who was clearly nervous. In my previous life, Dang Ran had gone to great lengths to make Xiaoyan fall in love with him. But in the end, he had to resort to a cruel scheme just to earn a single glance from Xiaoyan. Now that he saw Xiaoyan treating me this way, he was naturally displeased. Today is my great joy. What do you think I am doing? Dang Ran's eyes welled up with tears. She stepped forward to grab Xiaoyan's hand, but he roughly pushed her away. Your Highness, we have been married for 3 years, and you have never set foot in my room. Today, Shin Jiao Jiao has only just entered the mansion. And you? Do you truly love her that much? What am I lacking compared to her? In what way am I inferior to her in status or position? Why do you treat me this way? Your Highness? Have you forgotten that when you were a child, it was I who accompanied you by your side? Memories flooded back. Xiaoyan had once been bullied and abused by eunuchs in the cold palace. At the time, Dang Ran, who was still unmarried, was the legitimate daughter of the chancellor's family. She had accidentally entered the cold palace during a palace banquet and saved Xiaoyan, who was being beaten. It was from that day onward that Xiaoyan married her because of that incident. Looking back now, Dang Yan was not of this world at that time. After all, the real Dang Yan was timid and cowardly, unable to utter a single word, while the Dang Yan of that time was arrogant and fearless. From that moment onward, Xiaoyan had already been caught in a scheme. Hadn't he? Xiaoyan merely smiled lightly upon hearing this, then pulled me into his arms. Who I choose to favor is none of your concern. A princess should focus on her duties. Such jealousy makes you unfit for the position of principal consort. Xiao Yan paid no heed to Dang Yan's feelings as he led me into the room. Seeing Dang Yan standing outside the door for a long time, I smiled lightly. Your Highness, aren't you afraid of hurting the princess's heart? So what? Her heart isn't pure to begin with. If such words can hurt her, then I've underestimated her. I looked at Xiao Yan in astonishment. He knew that Dang Yan's heart wasn't pure. Yet he still kept her around. If your Highness knows that, why tolerate her? Could it be that you also care for the princess and can't bear to part with her? If the prince cares for the princess, then perhaps. I was suddenly pulled into Xiao Yan's embrace, and he gently traced my lips with his index finger. Perhaps what? Worry about her skills later, worry about yourself first. Today is our wedding night. Has the delicate one prepared herself? The next morning, I was awakened by Dang Ran splashing water on me. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she looked at me. Yesterday, Xiao Yan didn't do anything to me. We just talked until late at night. And I don't even know when we fell asleep. But in the eyes of others, it seems like the Guangyang prince favored me, including Dang Yan. What is the princess doing? I slowly sat up from the bed and wiped the water off my face. This concubine underestimated you. An ancient woman. I thought you were useless. But I never expected you to be so cunning, manipulating both me and Io at your whim. But do you think you can make the prince like you? I have known him since childhood, while you have only known him for a short time. Xin Jiao Jiao. Don't get too cocky. You have made this concubine lose face, and I will make you wish you were dead. I stood up with a smile and walked over to Dang Ran, grabbing onto one of her words. What does the princess mean by ancient woman? Dang Ran snorted lightly. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. But it doesn't matter. Xin Jiao Jiao. No matter how capable you are, you're still just an ancient woman. If you want to trample me underfoot and compete for his favor, you'll have to prove you have the ability first. Saying this, she stormed off angrily. As I watched her back, I smiled slightly. Just as I had expected, she and Shin Muyao had known each other all along. However, making my life miserable won't be that easy. Before she can kill me, her so-called best friend will have to die first. That day, I sat in the mansion, reading a letter in my hands. What are you looking at? Xiao Yan had walked up to me unnoticed and glanced at the letter in my hands. I handed him the letter without a care, and he raised an eyebrow before taking it. Your Highness, I wish to go and see the commotion. May I? Xiao Yan smiled slightly and returned the letter to me. Permission granted. However, I also enjoy the commotion. Let us go together. Inside the Juyao Tower, Shin Muyao stood in the corner with her clothes in disarray, while a man in similar condition knelt on the ground. Xiao Su stood there in disbelief, staring intently at the man on the ground. How dare you defile my princess? Bring him here. The man curled up on the ground trembled uncontrollably. Prince, please spare my life. It wasn't me. It was the princess. She specifically requested me to serve her. He threatened me, and I dared not disobey. Ming Muyao, hiding in the corner, her eyes red with tears, said, You're lying. You're just a lowly servant. How could the princess choose you over the prince? Princess, it was you who said the prince was no good. You threatened me, saying you'd kill my only sister if I didn't obey you. How could you be so cruel? My sister is still being held captive by you. How could you be so heartless? Xiao Su's expression grew increasingly grim. I chuckled softly and stood outside the door. Upon seeing me, Xiao Su's expression darkened further. Why are you here? After speaking, he scanned Xiao Yan from head to toe. His brows furrowed. I shrugged. Prince Hongyang. The prince and I were out for a stroll and happened upon this incident. We thought it was some woman being harassed and wanted to help. But it turns out it was the princess of Hongyang. The princess of Hongyang was caught off guard by my words. And Xiao Su's expression grew even more grim. He turned to look at Shin Muyao. Is what she said true? Speak! Shin Muyao hurriedly waved her hands. Your Highness. It's not true. I only have eyes for you. How could I do anything to betray you? He framed me. He said my sister had beaten and insulted his sister. But since she was always at the Guangyang prince's mansion and he couldn't find an opportunity, he took it out on me. It was all my sister's fault. I suddenly smiled, amused by Shin Muyao's excuse. Xiao Su walked up to me without a word. Gritting his teeth, Shin Jiao Jiao. It's you again. What did Io ever do to you? You're always targeting her. Is it because she married me and didn't fulfill your wishes? You're a wicked woman. If we don't punish you today, Io's suffering will have been in vain. I should have killed you from the start. And none of this would have happened. You're nothing but a curse. I stared at Xiao Su, the events of my previous life echoing in my mind. Shin Jiao Jiao, you don't deserve to live. I'll make you pay back every ounce of suffering Io endured, multiplied 100-fold. What exiled immortal's tears? It's all lies. Seeing your eyes makes me want to vomit. Today, I will personally gouge them out. You loved those eyes so much. Didn't you? Without them, I'll see how you use those evil eyes to scare Io. Marrying you was the biggest mistake of my life. My wrist was grabbed, snapping me back to reality. Xiao Yan gave a mocking smile as he kicked Xiao Su to the ground. The Prince of Hongyang dares to be disrespectful to my concubine in front of me? That's not very proper. Is it? After all, I'm still alive. I turned to look at Xiao Yan. His profile was as sharp as a knife. Utterly captivating. In my previous life, I had little interaction with him. And the rumors I heard about him were not from others. Everyone said he was cold-blooded and heartless. Yet Dang Ran loved him deeply. There must be a hidden story behind this. Xiao Yan, what kind of person are you? You're just a worthless bastard born to a concubine. Do you really think you're a prince? Do you believe me when I say that with just one word from me? My father the emperor could have you killed? Xiao Su looked at Xiao Yan with a smug expression, his eyes brimming with provocation. Is that so? I wonder if the emperor would still consider you his favorite prince if he knew you colluded with the Minister of Revenue to embezzle military funds. Xiao Su froze, pointing at Xiao Yan. Don't speak nonsense. How could I embezzle military funds? Prince Hongyang, you should ask your own wife about that. I casually glanced at Shin Muyao in the corner. Her eyes were filled with fear as she waved her hands. Xiao Su stared at Shin Muyao in disbelief. You haven't figured it out yet. Have you? The woman you've been obsessed with, Io, has already been involved with the son of the Minister of Revenue. The woman you love most wants you to kill me with your own hands. Frame my husband, and then frame you for embezzling military funds so that the emperor will punish you. Do you know why she's threatening this man? Because her sister overheard their conversation. Oh, her sister is currently working as a maid in the Ministry of Revenue's mansion. Xiao Su pulled Shin Muyao out, his face filled with disbelief. Io, this slut isn't telling the truth. Is she? Tell me. At that moment, Xiao Su was like a furious lion, gripping Shin Muyao's arm tightly. Perhaps Shin Muyao knew she couldn't escape, so she didn't bother to explain. She looked at Xiao Su with a mocking expression. Even if it's true, so what? You worthless piece of trash. You couldn't even marry Shin Jiao Jiao. You had everything planned out. But you're just a failure. Not only did you let her marry Xiao Yan, but you also made Xiao Yan fall in love with her, causing Yan Yan to suffer. Do you really think I wanted to marry you? You're just a worthless piece of trash. You can't even last a few minutes in bed. Yet you claim to love me. You're not even as good as those lowly servants. Why would I ever look at you? I thought that as long as you got rid of Shinjiao Jiao, I could be with you. I'm a woman from the 21st century. You men can have multiple wives and concubines. But I want to be devoted to just one man. Why should I settle for less? What do you have besides your good status? You have no brains. No skills. Langu is better than you in every way. Why can't he have the world? I came here to make him rule the world. You're all just pawns in my hands. I lowered my head. No wonder Pei Ling rose to power before I died in my previous life. It was all Shin Muyao's doing. I suppose Xiao Su was already manipulated in my previous life. Was my death in my previous life related to you? Shin Muyao frowned upon hearing this, but then smiled. Last life? So you're a reincarnated soul. I don't know about last life, but I know that as long as my bound mission is Pei Ling, you're doomed to die. You worthless trash. Xiao Su's eyes turned bloodshot as he grabbed Shin Muyao by the throat, and she struggled in agony. Thinking of something, Xiao Su looked at me, so. Jiao Jiao. Did I misunderstand you? You. His eyes were filled with regret. But I only sneered and wrapped my arm around Xiao Yan's. Your Highness. None of that matters. What's important is, think about how you'll explain this to the Emperor. As an old friend, I'll send someone to burn you some extra joss paper after you die. No sooner had he finished speaking than the Imperial Guards arrived and took the group away, including Xiao Su. Xiao Su was demoted to a commoner and exiled for embezzling military rations. And as his legitimate wife, I naturally had to go with him. When Dang Ran heard about this, she rushed to my room without saying a word. Her eyes filled with hatred. Who are you? Io did everything perfectly. Yet you ruined it. And even though Xiao Yan was slowly accepting me, everything changed because of you. I really underestimated you. I casually took a sip of tea from the table and looked at her. Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that you lost. Doesn't it? What about the ancient people you speak of? What about the people of the 21st century you claim to be? In the end, you still fell into the hands of an ancient person like me. Dang Yan. This is your fate. I refuse to accept this. Why should I lose to you? Go die. As long as you're dead, everything will change. Io will be safe. And Ian will fall in love with me again. She charged at me with a dagger. But the next moment, Xiao Yan burst out of my room and kicked her to the ground. Dang Ran stared at her in disbelief, murmuring, Ian? Dang Ran. It's time to end this. End? Why should it end? I've loved you since I was a child. I went through so much to marry you. Can you just erase all our memories with one word? I don't want it to end. Xiao Yan. Look at me. I truly love you. She's just using you. Believe me. Once she's dead, we can start over. Everything will be as it was. Dang Ran staggered to her feet and tried to grab Xiao Yan's pant leg, but he kicked her hard and she fell to the ground. Why are you so heartless? Xiao Yan? Are you really that heartless? Xiao Yan laughed lightly, but his voice was cold. Heartless? Dang Ran. I never had a heart to begin with. Before she could say anything else, Xiao Yan ordered his men to take her away. I looked at him, wanting to say something, but swallowed the words back. Want to know why? I don't mind telling you. Because I've also died once. 3 days later, Dang Yan committed suicide in her room. Before she died, she left a letter, simply saying how much she loved Xiao Yan. She said that since the mission hadn't been completed, she and Shin Muyao were about to be eliminated. Rather than being eliminated, she'd rather take her own life. As for when Xiao Su was exiled, I went to see him specifically. When he saw me, his eyes turned red. Jiao Jiao. It's my fault. If I had known this in my previous life, I would never have repeated the same mistake. Please forgive me. I know you can see everyone's fate. Please help me once. If you help me, once I become the new emperor, I will definitely make you my empress." The next moment, he looked down at the dagger in his abdomen. I wiped the blood from my hands and snorted lightly. Xiao Su. In my previous life, I was locked in a dark dungeon for years, turned into a human pig. When I begged you to believe me, where were you? The pain I endured was 1,000 times worse than yours. Do you think a single promise to make me empress can erase this hatred? What a joke. If mother insists on this, then the son would rather not have the position of crown prince. Oh, I forgot to tell you. The emperor is ill and bedridden. The only prince is Yan, so he has already ascended the throne, and I am his only empress. Xiao Su couldn't believe it. Impossible. I'm the one who should be the crown prince. You are. But that was in the previous life. Once the dream ends, it's over. With a swift stroke of the sword, Xiao Su was killed by my own hand. Filled with resentment. To the outside world, it was said that the Prince of Hongyang was exiled and met bandits who severely wounded him, leading to his death. When the people learned of his embezzlement of military rations, they did not pity him but instead cursed him, saying he deserved to die. As for Shin Muyao, I locked her in the dungeon from my previous life and turned her into a human pig. The only thing that changed was that I didn't cut off her tongue. Her curses amused me. She was locked in the dark dungeon for 3 years, her head covered in filth. When she tried to bite her tongue to commit suicide, Xiao Yan had her teeth shattered, making her wish she were dead. 3 years later, I was pregnant, and Xiao Yan granted a general amnesty. Shin Muyao also died on the day of the amnesty. Before she died, she said she wanted to see me one last time. When I appeared before her in my elaborate makeup, it was just like in my previous life, though our roles were reversed. She smiled bitterly, her voice hoarse. Shin Jiao Jiao, if I had another chance, we would never part ways. Next time, I will make sure you die a horrible death. You only have the exiled immortal's tears. Without it, you would lose. I smiled lightly, took the branding iron in my hand, and branded a mark on her face. Shin Muyao had once tattooed a fox spirit pattern on her neck to be like me, but she didn't know that my exiled immortal's tear was merely a scar from a childhood injury. My mother, to prevent me from feeling inferior, ground pearl silk into powder and used it to wipe my scar, which eventually turned into the tears of the banished immortal. But all my half-sisters knew this. Yet the reincarnated woman did not. So that so-called reincarnation system was nothing special. No matter how intelligent a machine is, it can never outsmart a human. Shin Muyao winced in pain, glaring at me. Do you know where you lost? She looked at me in confusion. I threw the branding iron and turned to leave. To this day, she still doesn't know where she lost. She died with that bitter taste in her mouth. But she was wrong about one thing. Even if she had another chance, she would still be my defeated opponent. The one who holds the chess pieces must be willing to be the first pawn. Life is like a gamble. There are winners and losers. Only those who dare to bet can win.